Okay, we are on the record. This is People versus Marcellus Demetrius Jones, calling case B 8080961. We are here today for evidentiary hearing appearances.
Sydney Rogers for the People, P82072, alongside co-counsel.
Matthew Rosenthal for the People, P84807.
And good morning again, Your Honor. Dennis Whitey, P79560, on behalf of Mr. D'Angelo Jordan, who is appearing by way of Zoom. Mr. Jordan, please state your name for the record.
My name is D'Angelo Jordan.
Judge, if I could, just remind Mr. Jordan, if you need to communicate with me, remember we talked about you texting me. So while the testimony is going on, if you need to communicate, go ahead and text that number, okay?
Okay.
And at any point you need to go out and make a call, I will report about it. Okay? Are you ready to move forward and proceed?
Yes, the people are ready.
Okay.
Dennis is ready.
Okay, so we're in motion.
Oh, well, it is defensive motion, but
Well, Judge, yeah, I guess today's the day and time set for an evidentiary hearing. I filed a written motion with the court a few months ago now in this case, just basically arguing, based upon the police report, that there was no probable cause to actually arrest Mr. Jordan in this case. So, Judge, we just, I believe we're proceeding by way of people putting on their proofs and then following up with some argument and let the court make a call.
yes, that's exactly true, and I did file a written response, and I have two witnesses, to give live testimony today.
Okay, and I see that they have taken on Zoom.
Right, thank you, Judge. The people call Officer Malloy.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it Malloy or Malloy?
Malloy.
Oh,
Malloy. Okay, Officer Malloy, can you raise your right hand?
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may begin.
thank you. All right, Officer, good morning. Once again, can you please state your name and badge number for the record?
Officer Malloy, badge number 2641, Detroit Police Department.
Can you please repeat it? We can't really hear you well in the courtroom.
Officer Chase Malloy, Detroit Police Department, badge 2641.
Thank you, officer. And how are you employed?
I'm sorry, did you say how long?
How are you employed?
With the Detroit Police Department.
And what are your duties with the Detroit Police Department?
As of right now, I'm in investigations, but back during this time, I was on patrol.
Okay. And what does it mean to be on patrol?
It pretty much means you drive around your precinct or be in the city, look for anything that could be traffic violations or anything like that, breaking the law, answering police runs.
Okay. And do you have any special duties or experience to be able to perform these duties?
Nothing other than captain training.
I'm sorry, did you say nothing besides the academy?
That's correct.
Okay. And how long have you been with the Detroit Police Department?
2 years.
And were you on duty March 11th, 2020?
Yes.
And when you were on duty on March 11th, 2020, what did you see?
At the time of this incident, we were leaving the Detroit Detention Center. We just dropped off somebody. I observed a black four-door car almost strike another vehicle from behind. And then that vehicle then turned onto East Davison from McNichols. We continued on westbound East Davison. When we were behind that vehicle, it was, it couldn't maintain his lane, and kept swerving crossing over the lanes. At that point, me and my partner conducted a traffic stop. by turning on our lights and sirens, and then we pulled that vehicle over.
Okay, and where did you conduct the traffic stop?
At the point when the vehicle stopped, it was on Davison on the freeway part when it turns into the freeway.
Okay, and just for the record, to be clear, is this Davidson area, is this in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, is this on a service drive, or if you can kind of describe the area that you made the traffic stop?
So the road kind of goes from a road and then turns into a freeway port. It looks like a freeway. So there's no like pull over in the lane, and it's very, very small on the side of the road.
Okay.
So it's kind of just like a freeway.
Okay, so in this area, there's not much of a shoulder, or is
That's
there any?
There's not much of a shoulder there.
Okay, and is this a busy area?
Yes.
And meaning when I said it is a busy area, there's a lot of traffic back and forth?
A lot of traffic and high rate of speed.
Okay, and do you recall what time of day this incident happened?
I know this was in the evening time, like after midnight. That's my shift. Probably somewhere around 3 or 4.
Okay, and this would be at night, correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
so it's dark out when you're making the traffic stop. Okay.
Correct.
Officer Malloy, I'm sorry, did you say 3 or 4? I didn't hear the rest of the time you said, because your shift is a real time. Did you say?
So I know my report says that this was about 4 in the morning, 4:24 in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So once you made the traffic stop, what happened from there?
We approached the vehicle, and the driver of the vehicle, Mr. Jordan, he informed us that he did have a CPL on the vehicle, like he's supposed to. And my partner asked him to place his hands on the steering wheel. He kind of kept moving his hands around, not doing on the steering wheel. So at that point, I asked him to step out of the vehicle. And he was placed in handcuffs.
Officer Malloy, we're having trouble hearing with the audio.
Okay. So when we made the traffic stop, my partner, she was the one who walked up to the door. Mr. Jordan informed us he had a CPL when we approached. My partner asked him to keep his hands on the steering wheel. During my partner's investigation, he kept moving his hands off the steering wheel. So she asked him to step out of the vehicle, and he complied. So she did. She ended up detaining him. When I approached Mr. Jordan, I walked him back to the vehicle, to our scout car. I could smell the odor of intoxicants on him. And at that point, he was placed in the back of our scout car. We didn't want to leave him out in front of our car because it was a high rate of speed area.
Okay, all right, thank you, officer. I'm gonna kind of back you up a little bit. So you said when you approached the vehicle, you asked the defendant to place his hands on the steering wheel.
My partner did. She was the one who made contact with him first.
Okay, but you heard her request him to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, and what did he place his hands on the steering wheel, if you could see this?
At first, yes, he kept him on the steering wheel.
And then did he at some point remove his hands from the steering wheel?
Correct.
Okay, so he was not following directions of an officer?
That is correct.
And can lack of following directions from an officer indicate intoxication?
It could potentially, yes.
Okay, so when he was not following officer directions, what happened from there?
My partner asked him to step out of the vehicle.
Okay, and did he step out of the vehicle?
He did step out of the vehicle.
Did you do you believe your partner asked him to step out of the vehicle for officer safety reasons?
Yes.
And what would the safety concerns be?
He did tell us he had a CPL and that his pistol was in the vehicle. He kept moving his hands off the steering wheel, so we couldn't see where he was grabbing or what he was grabbing.
So once he came out of the vehicle, what happened from there?
At that point, my partner stayed with the vehicle. I came around to where my partner and Mr. Jordan were. I walked him back to our vehicle. He was placed in handcuffs, I believe, by my partner. And I walked him back to our scout car. And we placed him in the back seat.
Okay. And I believe earlier you testified that you smelled an odor of intoxicants.
That is correct.
And when did you smell the odor of intoxicants?
When I walked around to the vehicle to meet Mr. Jordan and my partner, before I walked him back to our scout car.
Okay. So you could smell the odor of intoxicants when Mr. Jordan was out of the car?
Yeah, when he exited the vehicle.
Okay. So would you say you could smell the odor of intoxicants from his breath?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
It was when I was with him.
Okay. Could you smell any intoxicants coming from his vehicle?
I honestly do not remember.
Okay. And going back to the odor of intoxicants from his breath, how did you know that was intoxicants?
From my experience prior experience on the job.
Okay. And also, can you please identify on Zoom if you see the man that you pulled over that day for excess speed and then later arrested for an OWI offense? And if you can please describe what color shirt he's wearing?
Yeah, he's wearing a red polo shirt.
And may the record reflect the identify the defendants that identified.
So reflect.
Thank you. Are you certified to do field sobriety tests?
I am.
And did you do standard field sobriety tests on the day in question?
We did not.
And why didn't you conduct field sobriety tests?
The area we did the traffic stop, it was not a safe area to do so. We didn't want to put our lives and his life in danger.
Okay. And why was the area not a safe area to do field sobriety tests?
Like I said earlier, it was where Davidson turns into the freeway. So there wasn't enough room for us to do it. And there was vehicles, high rate of speed in the area.
Okay. And were you wearing body cam on the day in question?
Yes.
And this incident happened in March of 2020, correct?
That is correct.
Do you know how long DPD keeps their body cam for?
As far as I know, we keep it for 90 days.
Okay, and today is March 1st, 2021, so we're well past 90 days, right?
That's correct.
Going back to the actual arrest, are you trained in the academy how to determine probable cause for an OWI arrest?
I'm sorry, what was that part?
Are you trained in the academy to determine how to establish probable cause for an OWI arrest?
Yes.
And through your training, are you taught that you have to do field sobriety tests to establish probable cause?
Not if the area is not safe, no.
Okay. Is there any other ways to determine probable cause without doing field sobriety tests?
The odor of the intoxicants off the person is probable cause to arrest. The CPL, you can't have above a .02 while possessing that firearm.
Okay. And
Okay, Officer Malloy, the last part of what you just stated, you said you cannot, if you have a CPO, you cannot have, what was the rest of what you said? I didn't hear.
You cannot possess a firearm with above a .02.
Thank you.
thank you, officer. And also, does someone not following officer directions also can create probable cause?
Yes.
And does, bad driving with excess speeds and unable to maintain the lane, does that indicate probable cause for an OWI?
Yes.
If we could go back to the driving that you saw, what, you said that the defendant was going at a high rate of speed?
Yes.
Were you able to estimate how fast he was going?
I was not. But he was approaching a red light, and there was a vehicle already stopped at that red light. And he had the vehicle almost struck the vehicle that was stopped, and we heard the brakes and the tires screech.
And was there any other bad driving that you saw?
The failure to maintain the lane. He kept going in between lanes and driving down the center of two lanes, Okay.
And the bad driving you saw, that's the reason for the stop?
That is correct.
Nothing further, thank you, officer.
Good morning, Officer Malloy. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
My name is Dennis Whitey. I'm the attorney who is representing Mr. Jordan in this case, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to have a few questions to clarify your testimony. If there's something unclear, please tell me. Hey, it's unclear. Please rephrase, and I'll do so, okay?
Okay.
Now, you completed the police report in this matter, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you have that report in front of you right now?
I do.
Okay. And is there, before I ask any other questions, is there anything that's inaccurate about that report or missing or any amendments you'd like to make?
Is not that I know of right now. No.
Okay.
Everything's correct.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you've been a police officer for 2 years, is that correct?
That is correct.
And before coming to the Detroit Police Department, had you worked anywhere else as a police officer?
No.
And part of your curriculum in the Detroit Police Academy is certification for the standardized field sobriety test, isn't that right?
That is correct.
I'm sorry, did you say correct?
Yes.
And it's not your voice, I think it's the connection, just so you know the delay. So you agree with me that it's important for the police to collect all evidence in cases where they make an arrest, isn't that right?
Yes.
And part of the reason that they teach you the field sobriety test in the police academy is so that you can collect all the evidence in a drunk driving case, isn't that right?
Correct.
And in this case, you did not do any field sobriety testing. Do I have that accurate?
That is correct.
Now, you indicated that there was a video or body camera. Is that correct?
Yes, we had our body cams on.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, the Detroit Police Department destroys that evidence after 90 days, correct?
As far as I know, that is correct, yes.
And so the destruction of the videotape evidence is by an official policy of the police department. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Now, when you interviewed or spoke to Mr. Jordan, were you aware that he was following a coworker that evening at all? Or were you not aware of that?
That he was, I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry. When you spoke to Mr. Jordan, did you become aware that he was actually following a coworker down Davison?
No.
Now, you stated you did not do field sobriety test because it was too dangerous at that corner. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And, well, actually, Judge, if I could, I'm going to show you defense proposed exhibits. I'll be with you in just one moment. It'll be on your screen.
I'll give you a post.
Okay.
They give you the option to share.
Oh, share screen. I have it. Okay. Okay. Whoop. Do you see a picture on your screen or not?
It says it's loading.
Okay. Let me know when it pops up.
You'll see it as well.
All I see right now is looks like the documents.
Okay, yeah, that's, let's see. Okay, let's try it again. There we go.
What's it called?
Hey, Sid. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Officer Malloy, can you see a picture on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. And does that picture reflect the intersection of Gallagher and Davison?
It does.
Okay. And is that the intersection that you made the traffic stop at?
Yeah, it was that. Yeah, it was that area.
Okay. And
I believe it was on.
that's okay. But you believe that this is an accurate depiction of the intersection as it existed even on that night? It didn't change much since 2020, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Judge, at this time, we move for the admission of defense proposed exhibit A.
I do have an objection because it does not accurately depict the intersection because this is at, daytime and the stop happened at nighttime, so the lighting's different. You don't fully understand what it looked like at the stop in question.
And in brief response, I think just to admit, I just need to authenticate that that's the intersection. She can argue it's nighttime, and I've got two more, Judge, which kind of brings home the point.
I will admit it, it's not, I don't believe it's entering for the purpose of the day and time.
Correct.
Just for the intersection, so we can all understand the area in which the vehicle is.
Thank you. Now, when you made this traffic stop, Officer Malloy, did the vehicle stop on Davison or did he pull off onto Gallagher?
He stopped on Davison.
Okay. Did you instruct him by loudspeaker to move over to Gallagher at all?
No, because
Okay.
when we made the traffic stop, I believe he was already past Gallagher.
Okay. So you were past Gallagher when you stopped, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. And of course, this would be on the videotape that is now destroyed, right? Okay.
Yes.
show you one more here. There we go. Okay. Do you see the new picture on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. And again, from your experience at the intersection at the scene, this would be a more closer view, I guess, than the last picture of the intersection of Gallagher and Davidson. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, at this time, we move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit B.
Okay.
Okay. Defense. Correct. Oh, wow. And I have one more to show you. Well, actually, before I come from this, can you see in the top of that picture where there's like a sidewalk that curves from Davison and goes down Gallagher?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a big field there, isn't there?
Yes.
That field's away from the roadway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Give me one moment, officer. Just trying to pull up the last picture.
No problem.
There. Okay. Did you see the new picture that was just loaded?
Not yet.
Let us know when it pops up. There should be the view of a sidewalk facing south with the gray car stopped at the intersection.
Okay, I
Okay.
see it.
Taking a look at this picture, is this, from your experience at that intersection, a more of a close-up view, I guess, facing southbound at that Gallagher Street facing towards Davison? Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. And, okay, Judge, at this point, we move to admit defense exhibit C.
Be admitted. Or, I'm sorry.
No
not
objection.
Okay. And now that it's admitted, Officer Malloy, you see that sidewalk there, is that correct?
Yep.
And that sidewalk that's kind of, I guess, coming towards us or going away from us is, it gets closer or further away from Davison, isn't that right?
I believe so.
Okay. And so there's quite a bit of space, would you agree with me? From the point where the picture's taken all the way over to Davison?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and I'm going to ask you, officer, just to be fair, on the other side of this, there's a large field, isn't that correct?
I believe so.
And there's no sidewalk there, though, correct?
No.
Okay. But that area is the same dimensions pretty much as you see in this picture from Davison to where the picture would be taken, isn't that right?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, fair enough. There we go. Okay. So you testified that you did not conduct field sobriety tests because there were cars moving fast on the road and it was too dangerous. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And now let me ask, do they teach in the academy to simply not do field sobriety tests if there's too much traffic on the street?
If the conditions are too dangerous, then we don't want to put our lives or his life at risk. So yes.
Okay, understand. And so, given that there's a lot of traffic, you would agree with me then that no Detroit police officer would ever conduct field sobriety tests on I-75, right?
Objection, asking for speculation. What the entire department does, not just this officer.
I can rephrase, Judge, actually. You, as an officer, then would never do field sobriety tests on the side of I-75 then, correct?
I would not.
But other officers may, correct?
That's up to the officer.
Officer, I'm sorry, I had an objection. Another speculation objection.
I made the point. I can move on.
Okay, I will sustain.
Now, how many, when you took field sobriety tests, how many total clues were there if somebody's intoxicated?
When we take the field sobriety tests,
Yeah, when you took the class, how many total, I guess, approximately, I know there's a lot, indicators would indicate that somebody is under the influence of liquor?
I'm not sure. I usually have a checklist in front of me.
Okay. You agree with me that there are several phases to field sobriety testing, including pre-stop of the vehicle, the observations when the defendant's in the vehicle, and then observation once he's out of the vehicle. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And do you believe that the majority of those indicators were present from from all of your observations, from all three phases? I'm sorry, you cut out. Your link froze. What's the answer?
Sorry, I was getting the phone call. Yes.
Okay. What I'm doing is, and Judge, I forwarded yourself and opposing counsel the standardized field sobriety testing manual put out by the federal government, the latest edition, which is 2015. I don't want to admit that, Judge. It's just for reference because we're going to have some questions, I guess, from that for the court's reference if you need it. Okay.
Okay, I did.
Okay, so I went through the manual, the field sobriety testing manual, and would you agree with me there's almost 90 clues of when somebody could be intoxicated?
Yes, there could be up to that.
Okay. And so we're gonna go through some of them, okay?
Okay.
You tell me if those existed or not, all right?
During this traffic stop?
Yep, during this stop, yes, correct.
Yeah.
And before, everything you saw in this stop, include everything.
Okay.
So, you said he was straddling a lane, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. But he wasn't weaving, was he?
Between the lanes?
Well, you said he straddled going straight down the street. Is
I
that
said
correct?
he was straddling the lanes and going in between the lanes, switching lanes,
Okay,
swerving between
gotcha.
them.
Okay. So, I mean, he wasn't doing any wide swerving or anything, correct?
I mean, it wasn't wide. It was between two lanes. He was swerving between the two.
Okay. But I mean, when he turned from McNichols to Davison, was there like an ultra wide turn or anything? Or was it?
I mean, that intersection right there is really wide. So, no, I mean, I believe the turn was fine.
Okay. When you, well, let's move on. So if he didn't have any problem stopping the motor vehicle when you put your lights on, is that correct?
No, he didn't have any problem stopping.
Okay. And he wasn't actually accelerating or decelerating rapidly back and forth, was he?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay. And I know you said he had excessive speed. How fast was he going?
I'm not sure.
What's the speed limit on Davison?
Well, when we seen the excessive speed, it wasn't on Davison. It was coming up to the light on McNichols, but I don't know the speed limit over there.
Okay. So you're not aware of the speed limit on any of the streets that you observe bike line on, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And while you said, I'm sorry?
I said I don't know them offhand.
Okay. He wasn't traveling at a very slow speed, was he?
No,
Okay. He didn't drive in opposing lanes, did he?
no,
He didn't have any slow response to a traffic signal, did he?
no. I mean, other than coming up to that red light, not really. Almost running the red light, then no.
Okay. He didn't stop in the lane for no apparent reason, did he?
No.
I'm sorry, was that a no?
No, he did not.
Okay. He wasn't driving without his headlights on, was he?
No,
He didn't fail to signal, did he?
I'm sorry. What was that last part?
He did not fail to signal, did he?
When he was going in between the lanes, he didn't use his blinker. He was straddling the
Okay.
lane.
Okay. And of course, that would be something that you would want to put in your report if you saw that, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
And is that in your report?
No, not that I'm seeing.
Okay. And you'd agree with me, your memory of the incident was better back when you wrote this report about a year ago than it is today. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you activated your overhead lights, he pulled over to the right of the right side of the street. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's what you're supposed to do under Michigan law. Is that correct?
Yes.
He didn't jump over the curb or anything, did he, when he pulled over?
No, he would have hit the wall if he did that.
Okay. And he certainly didn't hit the wall, though, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you notice some fumbling with his driver's license or registration?
Not that I can recall. No.
When you asked him to step out of the vehicle, he stepped out of the vehicle, isn't that correct?
Yes.
He didn't have any difficulty getting out of the vehicle, did he?
No.
He wasn't swaying or unsteady on his feet, was he?
No.
He didn't have any balance problems then, did he?
No.
He didn't use his vehicle to lean against to help himself stand up, did he?
Not that I can recall. No.
And did he have slurred speech?
No.
He followed your directions to get out of the vehicle Pretty quickly, didn't
He did follow the directions to step out of the vehicle, yes.
he? Okay. He didn't provide you like any incorrect information such as a false name or anything like that, did he?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay. And now I know you stated you smelled an odor of intoxicants around his person or his breath, but you actually didn't smell that in the motor vehicle, did you?
No,
In fact, it wasn't until he stepped out that you observed that. Is that correct?
yes.
And Judge, I guess I should back up just for reference for the record. That was on page 11 of 26 in section 5 of that manual. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, the last three were page 7, page 8, page 9 and 10, and 11 on section 5 of the manual. Okay. I'm going to move on. Now we're in the stopping sequence that you were taught about in the police academy, okay? First thing, did he attempt to flee at all?
No.
Sorry, we had a
No.
delay. Did he attempt to flee at all?
No,
Okay. He didn't fail to respond to you trying to stop him, is that correct?
when we stopped the vehicle,
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't keep doing a slow roll, did he?
not to my knowledge, no, he pulled over.
Okay. He didn't weave over abruptly to stop, did he?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. And again, you already testified he did not strike any objects or a curb or a wall, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. He didn't stop suddenly, did he? When you pulled him over, did he stop suddenly?
No.
Judge, for purposes of the record, that was from page 21 of session 5. So out of the 7 clues that I just cited to you, from attempting to flee all the way down to stop suddenly, you agree that, I'll actually withdraw that. I'm going to move on to sensory clues, okay? You remember being taught in the police academy?
Yes.
Okay. He didn't have bloodshot eyes, did he?
I'm not sure.
If he did, that's something that you put in your report, is that correct?
If I noticed it, yes.
Okay. And if you want, you can take a look at your report to refresh your recollection, if that'll help you.
No, I did not put that in my report, so
So he,
to my knowledge, no, I didn't see the bloodshot eyes.
okay, thank you. He didn't have soiled clothing, did he? Like urine or feces or anything on him? Wasn't fumbling with his fingers, was he?
Nah, not that I can recall.
Okay. You didn't notice any alcoholic containers in his hands or anything, did you?
No,
Okay. Didn't have any drugs or drug paraphernalia on him, did he?
no,
Didn't have any what appeared to be recent bruises, bumps, or scratches, did he?
no,
So on the last 6 questions, he exhibited none of the signs we just talked about, from bloodshot eyes, soiled clothing, fumbling fingers, alcohol containers, and drug paraphernalia, bruises, or bumps. He had none of those. Is that right?
that is correct.
Okay. Moving on to hearing clues. I'm sorry, Judge, that was page 5 of session 6 in the manual. He didn't have any slurred speech, did he?
Not that I can recall.
He He didn't state that he was drinking, is that correct?
I'm not sure. I don't believe, I don't know.
Okay. When he spoke to you, though, it was in a clear and consistent manner, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there were no like inconsistent responses.
That's correct.
Okay. He didn't use any abusive language towards you, did he?
No.
He didn't make any off-the-wall or unusual statements to you, did he?
No.
Okay. So you agree with me, out of the 5 total hearing clues, slurred speech, admission of drinking, inconsistent responses, abusive language, and unusual statements, he exhibited none of those, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Now, you did state that he smelled like an odor of intoxicants, is that right?
Yes.
He didn't smell like an odor of marijuana, did he?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay. He didn't have any like cover-up odors like breath sprays or anything, did he?
Not that I can recall, no.
Other than the alcohol, there were no other unusual odors, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So out of the 4, what they call smell clues in your training, he only exhibited 1 out of 4, which was the smell of alcohol, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Judge, that was, for purpose of the record, page 9 of session 6. Now, did you ask my client for any of his driver's license, registration, proof of insurance?
I don't think I did. I believe that was my fault.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Officer Malloy, did you say you believe that was your partner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And he didn't forget to produce those documents. I mean, he tried to get those for you, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Officer Malloy, there was an objection. What's the objection?
There's no, it'd be a speculation again, he has no personal knowledge, as he stated in his previous question.
Okay, well, I could actually rephrase it.
No need to rephrase, he answered it, he didn't know. Right?
Fair enough, thank you.
I just wanted to make sure I heard it, a lot of stuff being lost right now.
He didn't produce any documents to you and your partner that you didn't request, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. He didn't fail to see any documents that, well, you actually didn't ask those, so that's okay. I'll withdraw that. He didn't have any dexterity issues with grabbing things, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Again, you would have to ask my partner.
Okay. Now, there are some sobriety tests that you can do without actually having somebody perform them on the side of the street. Is that correct?
The only one I know of would be a breathalyzer test.
Okay. But how about like having somebody say their alphabet?
I don't do those.
Okay. So in the manual, when they discuss the alphabet test, page 15 of session 6, that's an investigative tool that you don't use, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so there are 2, basically reciting the alphabet from A to Z, or while you listen and observe them perform the test, you didn't use either of that tool to actually investigate, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. How about counting?
We didn't do that either.
Okay. But I mean, you agree with me though, there's at least 5 potential clues with counting, is that correct?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. And again, that wasn't completed by you or your partner, to your knowledge, right?
Correct.
Okay, so since you brought it up, you said the other way that you could determine intoxication is through a preliminary breath test, isn't that right?
That is correct.
And in this case, you did not ask him to submit a sample of breath. Is that your testimony?
Not on the scene. We didn't use the breath. No.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have access to a preliminary breath test in the Detroit Police Department?
I do not. I am not trained to use one of those or certified.
Oh, you're not certified in PBT?
For the PBT,
The PBT, on the roadside, not the data master, the PBT.
no, I am not.
Okay. Now, you can call over traffic services or another car where somebody is trained, isn't that right?
Yes.
You didn't do that during this stop, did you?
I don't believe so. I would have put that in the report.
Okay. 1 second, Your Honor. Did your partner give any preliminary breath test on the scene?
No.
So for all you know, when you placed Mr. Jordan in handcuffs and I guess under arrest, you didn't have any alcohol reading from any, I guess, scientific machine or device, correct?
That's correct.
So at that point, you did not even know if he was over, I guess you testified at .02, right?
Well, at that point, the only thing we had was we smelled the odor of intoxicants. We didn't know what his VAC was.
Okay. So you had a few driving clues, an odor of intoxicants, and you made an arrest based on that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you agree with me there is a lot more you could have done to investigate?
Well, we could not perform the yeah.
Officer Malloy, not your fault, but we
Yes.
in here just said, I'm gonna take a break for a moment and ask counsel a question about, timing as well as maybe adjusting the hearing, the venue for the hearing. Not necessarily venue, but whether we should do it all in person. So give me one moment, we're gonna go off the record. Okay, everyone, we are back on the record. One thing I do have to correct, from the very beginning of this case, I had, a different case number and definitive that I read onto the record. It's supposed to be D806679, people versus D'Angelo Jordan. I'm not sure if I stated that correctly. We had a brief, or I had both counsel approach the bench to discuss time matters as well as audio issues with having this hearing on Zoom. We have come to the conclusion, and we all agree that after the cross-examination of Officer Malloy, we will continue the rest of the evidentiary hearing in person, meaning the officers will appear in person. With the understanding that Mr. Jordan will still remain on Zoom as his audio is not an issue. Of course, Mr. Jordan, you have a right to come into the court if you change your mind, if you receive transportation to come to the court. We are going to adjourn after Officer Malloy is finished, or after Attorney Whitey finishes cross-examination on Malloy. It will be adjourned to Monday at 2:15 p.m. unless Officer Malloy, because he still has to do redirect, as well as Officer Honeycutt. If those dates don't work, then we will discuss that on the record. From the people and defense, is there anything that I missed that we discussed?
No, I believe that's everything.
That's everything, Judge.
Okay. So Officer Malloy, we're gonna finish up cross-examination with you, but the audio is pretty bad. So we want the rest of the hearing after cross-examination in person. Does Monday at 2:15 work for you?
You said Monday the 8th.
Yes, Monday, the 8th, March 8th.
Unfortunately, all next week I have investigations training at the academy.
Okay. Let me bring Officer Honeycutt in.
She might have just got off. Oh, they told her she was fine.
She's okay for the day?
She's
Okay. Okay, Officer Honeycutt, I'm bringing you in because we're having some timing issues as well as audio issues. It's very choppy, the testimony. So we're going to finish up Officer Malloy's cross-examination, and I believe Prosecutor Rogers discussed that we're adjourning it. We were going to adjourn it to March 8th on Monday at 2:15, but we just discovered Officer Malloy is going to be in training. Officer Malloy, what time is your training?
It's from 8 to 4.
Okay.
Judge, potentially.
What about the 15th, March 15th?
That would work.
That would work.
Mr. Jordan, does that work? I saw you say yes, ma'am, but your audio was off. Go ahead and unmute your device so you can put that on record.
Yes, ma'am. Work.
Okay, and what time do you all want to do? Prosecutor Rogers?
Yeah, Monday afternoon.
Yeah, let's try to.
Okay, does 2:15 p.m. work for everyone on March 15th?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Officer Honeycutt, thank you for your patience. We didn't expect this or anticipate this, so we're just trying to adjust here.
It's all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you're free to log off, Officer Malloy. It's my understanding there are only a few more questions for the cross-examination, and then we'll wrap things up today and finish up on the 15th of March.
Okay.
All right, so anything else before we get back to the last part of the cross-examination?
Nothing from the people.
Okay,
From the defense.
when you're ready.
Okay, Officer Malloy, just a few more questions to wrap this up for the day. You're trained as part of the field sobriety test to do what's called a horizontal gaze nystagmus test. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And that's where you put your finger up, have the subject follow your finger with their eyes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And if you notice what's called involuntary jerking of the eyes back and forth, that indicates some form of intoxication. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you can actually perform this test if somebody's in the back seat of your car, can't you?
I have never done it that way.
Well, I know you've never done it that way, but can you?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Why couldn't you do that while the subject sits in the back of your car?
To my knowledge, I wasn't trained that way. We do it so we have him standing in front of us so we can see, look for other indicators of him potentially falling over, swerving, weaving back and forth while he's standing there.
Okay. And you agree with me, though, that throughout this entire stop or contact, he was never swaying on his feet or anything, was he?
I agree with that. No, he was not.
Okay. And so you already could observe that. The only thing that you didn't, I guess, observe is the nystagmus, if it existed or not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many clues, if you recall, can you find of intoxication when you do the HGN test?
Like I said, I would have to have that sheet in front of me. I don't know offhand.
Okay. So even though you're trained in some of these techniques, you're probably not the most up to date on it. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is that because you don't use them that often?
It's just, no, not necessarily that. I just usually go off the sheet to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Okay. And can I ask you, officer, and there's many reports that you've authored in the Detroit Police Department, how many times have you conducted these field sobriety tests in your 2 years on the Detroit Police Department?
I don't know the number offhand. I could estimate somewhere around maybe 10.
Okay. So you're familiar with actually conducting those tests, correct?
Yes.
The other test is called the one-legged stand. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's where a subject stands with their arms at their side, lifts one of their feet up their choice 6 inches while pointing their toe outward. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how many clues with that test can you obtain that somebody is intoxicated?
I don't know the number offhand, but what we usually look for is him either swaying back and forth, him dropping his foot, losing balance, moving his arms not from his side, not keeping his arms at his side.
Okay. You agree with me? Well, does 8 sound about right? There's 8 total clues for that one-legged stand?
That sounds about right, yes.
And for the HGN test, there are 6 total clues. Isn't that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And for the last test, for the standardized field sobriety testing, is what's called the walk and turn. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
That's where you have a subject walk along a straight line while keeping their arms at their side for 9 steps, turning around and coming 9 steps back. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during that test, would you agree with me there's 8 clues that you could find if you conducted that test if somebody was intoxicated?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So for the 3 actual standardized field sobriety tests, there would be, you agree with me, 22 total clues that you could potentially discover somebody's intoxicated. Isn't that right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And in this case, you saw none of them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And those are the tests that the federal government has studied for some scientific validity. Isn't that right?
I believe so.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. So as I stated a few moments ago, Officer Malloy, you still have a question on redirect. We will adjourn this evidentiary hearing until March 15th at 2:15. Everyone but Mr. Jordan is asked to come in person due to the issues we're having with a little bit of audio, not being able to quite grasp every single word clearly, and I do not want to make any mistakes in my decision based off of bad audio, not being able to hear. Any questions, Officer Malloy?
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for your patience and have a good training. We'll see you on the 15th.
You too, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I will see you on the 15th as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Jordan, take care.
All right now. Thank you.
Yeah.